So Antonio, it's a pleasure to meet you and speak with you today.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the film. I had a chance to watch it, and there's a lot to delve into. Um, but I really wanted to start with Paris, because it's of course the story is set in Paris, but it feels much more than just a location. It really does feel like a secondary character to this story. We see this beautiful city in the clutch of war, and I felt that representation was kind of a reflection of what we see these characters go through. And I was just kind of wondering, like, being French yourself and having that familiarity with Paris as a location, did that help kind of influence your performance?
Of course, because I think if the decor that you're sort of in resembles the reality and feels tangible and feels real, then of course you feel like you're being transported in a different time in history. And also with those costumes, it's sort of you just you feel like you're going back in time, and it's like a time capsule that goes back in time. And it's yeah, I was very impressed by the location. I think Dave, the set designer, was incredibly precise, and he's so talented. And I thought what he did was absolutely astonishing, to be honest.
Oh, awesome. And Beatrice is Modi's muse. She's his love interest, but she is contrary to the typical portrayals of love interests we see. She's so much more than that. She's headstrong, she's courageous. She's got this sense of awareness of both Modi and by extension herself. And I've read you recognized her kind of free spirit while making this. And as she's sort of quite close to home for you, I was wondering kind of what source material and inspiration you lean towards when developing this portrayal.
So because it's based on a real person here, my biggest goal was to try and find as much material about her, as many of her entries, because obviously as a writer, she wrote so much about herself, and she had daily diaries of her times in Paris and all over the world where she traveled. And she was an incredibly revolutionary woman of that time. And she was a type of Virginia Woolf in the sense that she even wrote a book which is called Women's Worst Enemy, Women, which
Mm.
is kind of so similar to even the second sex and the Simone de Beauvoir sort of. Um, and it's just trying to understand how a woman of that time got to those way of thinking so ahead of her time. And so that for me is the most fascinating part of creating a character based on someone's that's real, because there is material that sort of guides you towards the right direction. And then obviously I add my own sauce, but I thought I'm someone that's quite forward in life, and I'm sort of quite, whereas she's 360. So I really wanted to sort of, because she's traveled all around the world, she's sort of taken with her everything that she's, all the people she's met along the way, the culture she's met along the way, because she grew up in South Africa. So I think she, she's so observant, and she's lived so many lives, and by having so many different aliases, I think she also, like, she's like a chameleon. And I really wanted her to be all over the place. And yeah, it was really exciting to play a character like this.
Yeah, I think that really does come through in the film, and there's a quote I wanted to talk about in her first appearance when we first see her on screen. She declares that destruction is creation. I thought that was a really awesome line, and it's a great encapsulation not only of the film itself but also of the relationship between Beatrice and Modi. And I was wondering, how did you and Ricardo explore this kind of complicated relationship when filming? And balancing this creativity and this also this destructive nature of their relationship as well.
Well, I think the script, the bones of the script were very great guides in terms of the dynamics of the scenes, and sort of through the lines, those dynamics were already in the text. But then I think as Ricardo and I's personality really fed that sort of dynamic, because I'm similar to Beatrice in some ways, and he's similar to Modi in some ways. And I'm very organized, and Ricardo is a little different. And it's just naturally those dynamics actually really mirrored the ones of the characters a little bit, and we created this sort of very, we didn't really and we rehearsed together the first week before we started shooting with Johnny, and sort of going to the locations and playing around with the text a little bit, but we didn't do that much work on the scenes together, so that we would leave it to the moment and the sort of let's let's see what happens on the day. And that really, and because we had so much time to shoot each scenes, there was really no time pressure. We just explored and tried things, and we had a lot of fun. And I think that's what makes that relationship special, is because we were really reacting to one another in real time, instead of, preparing or thinking, okay, at that point I'm going to react like that. Yeah, we were very in tune with each other.
Oh, that's awesome. I read that Al Pacino has been pursuing the making of this film for many, many years, and I was just wondering, as an actor with a responsibility to tell this story, does the film's long journey to production, does that add pressure, or is it just like any other job?
I don't think the length. I think what as precious is the people who are attached to it, that are Al Pacino, Johnny Depp, Stephen Graham, Riccardo Scamarcio, and you go, holy shit, I'm a little newbie here, um, and I really need to make sure that they think that I'm good. And I think that for me was the biggest pressure, because I was, for the first time, first I was the leader, the female leader for a movie. I've not been a female leader of a movie, been of a show, but not of a movie. And I'm with the big guys. I'm with the guys that I've admired my whole life. They're the reason why I want to be an actress. Al Pacino and Johnny Depp are hands down my two favorite actors in the world. Riccardo, I grew up watching some of his Italian films because I love Italian movies. And I was just like, whoa. And Stephen Graham, I mean, he's the best of the British actors too, of our generation. So it was a privilege. But yeah, that the pressure for me came more from the geniuses that were involved in this than just the time that it took to do the movie.
And it feels like a great time for the film to come out because, throughout the 2010s and 2020s, the last sort of 10, 15 years or so, we've seen a long string of biopics be released, but Modi seems to stand out because it's this specific focus on a very brief period of these people's lives, and that distinction, knowing that your characters, their full story won't be on screen, and it's just this kind of small chapter. How does that kind of impact your portrayal?
Because I think you tried to bring everything that you would discover throughout a normal biopic in certain instant of the story, so you get a sort of rounded understanding of who that person could be. But I think it's also a lot more authentic, because that means you get to have these very elongated moments of reality where you're just observing two human beings or three human beings being. And I think sometimes we get lost with actions and constant trying to like tell every seconds of someone's life if we're doing a biopic, when actually just being in a moment can explain who a person is so much more sometimes, as opposed to facts. To just observe the psychology of a human being is just fascinating. The way they move, the way even just a dynamic in the spatial position of people in a room can indicate already so much about someone. So I think it's it's a very clever way to sort of get an understanding of an artist that was clearly very misunderstood back in the days.
Yeah, and I've got time for one more question. The film is a story about the toll of genius, facing rejection, creating not just for passion, but also to make a name for yourself. And we see Modi go through that with his painting. We see Beatrice go through that with her writing. And I was just wondering, what do you desire most for your audience to kind of take away from this film?
Rejection is hard, and we all have to go through it, and that's okay. But I think you just have to persevere. But I think I just want people to have fun in the movie. And I think realize that money is not the answer to happiness, and don't sell your art for money if you don't feel like it's true to yourself.
That's awesome. That's all I've got time for, Antonia. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you, and I hope we can have a chance to talk again and about what where you go next. And congratulations again. I really enjoyed the film and speaking to you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure, pleasure shared. Likewise. Bye.
Bye bye.